Classrooms today contain students with a wide variety of learning abilities and motivations. Our challenge as teachers is to engage and teach this wide variety of students. One method to address this challenge is by utilizing the concept of universal design for learning. This method provides guidance when planning your curricular instruction prior to implementing the lesson in your classroom. CAS states that Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is a set of principles for curricular development that gives all individuals equal opportunities to learn. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, has incorporated the concept of UDL throughout the Act. The key points to remember when looking at UDL is that it is a scientifically valid framework that provides flexibility and reduces barriers in instruction in order to address the needs of all students, including students with disabilities and students with limited English proficiency. It should be remembered that UDL is incorporated at the beginning stages when planning your instruction, rather than retrofitting or modifying instruction for specific students. So how does a UDL design curriculum differ from a non-UDL design curriculum? First and foremost, a UDL curriculum allows teachers to identify and remove potential barriers that prevent learners from becoming expert learners. A UDL design curriculum uses the same 4 components that are used in planning any curriculum: goals, methods, materials, and assessment. However, with UDL, these 4 components focus on addressing learner variability and removing barriers. While developing goals identifying the knowledge, skills, and concepts students learn continues to be a primary focus. With UDL, the goals are developed in a way to acknowledge learner variability and provide options and alternatives for students. While methods continue to focus on the instructional procedures, approaches, and routines that teachers use to enhance learning, a UDL design curriculum further differentiates those evidence-based methods based on the learner variability in the classroom. Materials is often the area that is first thought of when developing a UDL design curriculum. But, as with methods, the selection of materials to represent concepts and provide students with ways to show their knowledge is based on learner variability. Finally, with UDL designed assessment, the goal is not only to gather information on the learner's performance, but also to improve the accuracy and timeliness of those assessments in order to guide your instruction. In other words, assessments can be used for what a student needs to learn, assessments as they are learning to determine progress, and assessments of what they have learned. In order to develop a UDL design curriculum, 3 principles have been identified based on neuroscience research. The research has identified 3 primary brain networks. The affective networks involve how learners are engaged and stay motivated. This is the why of learning, and these networks are represented by the principle of engagement. The recognition networks involve how we gather information and categorize what we see, hear, and read. This is the what of learning, and these networks represent the principle of representation. And the strategic networks involve how we organize and express our ideas. This is the how of learning, and these networks represent the principle of action and expression. CAST has developed a UDL graphic organizer that provides information on ways we can provide multiple means of representation, action and expression, and engagement. A link to this graphic is provided in the resources at the end of this section. Here are some examples of ways you can think about providing multiple means of engagement. In order to engage students, we need to be able to engage their interest. Some ways we might consider doing that can include providing them with choices of the topics and varying the tasks utilized in the lesson. We also need to provide ways for students to sustain their effort and persistence in completing tasks. This can be done through strategies such as cooperative learning, varying the demands in the task used, or adding increased challenges. And finally, we need to help students self-regulate. This can be by providing strategies to facilitate a student's coping skills. We can provide them with the means to determine how they are doing with the task, such as guiding questions. We need to consider multiple means on how we can represent the content we are providing. This can not only be by varying the types of materials the students use, but also by varying the instructional goals and the methods that we use. We can look at different ways that students perceive the materials presented, such as providing options for materials that are presented visually or options for materials that we present in an auditory format. We should also consider the ways that we customize the language that we use in the classroom, both to assist students with lower or limited English, but also to challenge students to learn and utilize higher level language or vocabulary. This principle also includes a variety of ways to ensure that students comprehend the material that you present. The last principle of providing multiple means of action and expression enables students to participate in activities or express their knowledge of the content. This can include ways students can physically engage in activities, ways students can express or communicate what they have learned, and finally ways students can increase their executive function skills. These are just a few ideas for providing multiple means of engagement, representation, and action expression. However, for teachers new to the process of implementing UDL, it can be overwhelming. Remember that you do not need to utilize every principle when you're beginning. Pick a principle that you feel comfortable with, and as you become familiar with the process, add another principle. Before you know it, you will be implementing a UDL design curriculum with ease. There are many resources for UDL available, ranging from websites to wikis and publications. These are just a few websites, including the UDL graphic organizer that I displayed earlier. The last link in this list is for a webinar recorded from the Center on Technology and Disability. This webinar offers many practical ideas on how to deconstruct a lesson plan to include UDL. However, it is a long webinar, about an hour and a half long. As you work to build a culture of writing for your students, remember to include UDL to develop the expert learners in your students. Thanks.